Hi, we just wanted to give a quick disclaimer before this video starts that the FilmSoc Radio Show does not encourage any irresponsible levels of drinking, and neither FilmSoc nor NUSU condone any dangerous behaviours. We are drinking responsibly in this video and are in a safe environment whilst doing so. We made this video purely for the purpose of entertainment and we hope you enjoy.
It's tiring.
It's just tiring, yeah. Peter, what do you think?
I mean, I've done it before last year, I think, because I had one and then I bought the other and I didn't have enough of one to do the other. But I do think they taste different. I think wholemeal has like a different sort of texture to it than penny. I don't mind actually. I don't mind wholemeal.
Yeah, I don't. What do you think, Alex?
I don't think it's that big of an issue.
I think it's just yeah. It's like how Nathan alphabetizes everything too. Like he alphabetizes all his films and all his books, and I just think that's why. What's the why? And then like I came over the first time, he's like, "Doesn't everyone do this?" I'm like, no, certainly I don't do it. Do you guys alphabetize your stuff?
Yeah.
No. Well, it's hard because like there's always sort of what's the word? The temptation to alphabetize everything or everything into alphabetical order. No, there is. But then I wouldn't have them in franchises. Like I keep all my DCEU stuff together. I keep all my whatever, like it goes. I'm just taking DC as an example because I have this in my room, but sort of like all the DC films, and I try to keep like the ones as connected together as possible, like the Burton ones and Schumacher. Try to like keep a timeline together almost. So I guess I might do it chronologically.
Yeah.
And then there's some films I might do by theme. So I might have like some Tarantino films, but I might also put like Seven Psychopaths or something like that because I feel like they're the same sort of kind of film, and then I'll keep comedies to get. Yeah, I sort of do it by genre and franchise.
Anyone who alphabetizes and puts Batman Begins away from The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises is just...
Yeah. It's quite frustrating though in hindsight that like, I mean, Batman Begins is a fine enough title, but it's annoying that it's not The Dark Knight something and then the whole trilogy is, because it feels unrelated in titles.
Well, I think Nolan originally wanted the third one to just be called Gotham, which fits better because the theme about it is more about Gotham than The Dark Knight. But the studio was like, we agree, but The Dark Knight is $1 billion film and we need that name.
Did you guys see the Kingsman trailer that they just released?
No.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I feel like they got a bad reaction from the first trailer, being like, oh, this is quite serious, and then they're like, oh, we should change it so it just looks like every other Kingsman film, but like early 20th century.
I didn't
or
see the
earlier
trailer,
actually,
to be honest, but I didn't think it was. I didn't get the same feeling as the first ones. First movie.
Do you guys like the first film?
Yeah, I never saw it.
I really like Von's directing. I feel like the film is okay, but his directing is just exceptional. And then I feel like in the second one, his directing is like even better and everything else is worse.
See, I didn't see the second one because I remember everyone was sort of like hyping up Kingsman, and I watched it and I was like, right, that was fine. And then like the second one came out and the reviews were worse and everyone was like, it wasn't as good. And I was like, well, if they really liked the first one and thought it wasn't as good, I'm probably going to like dislike this. I mean, that's like a bad way of doing it because like I think the same thing happened with Deadpool 2, and I actually much prefer Deadpool 2 to the first Deadpool. Alex is giving me that look like, oh,
I like it too, I agree.
sort of thing, but I
agree.
just thought it was funnier.
Oh.
Like, and the pace, I think the pacing in the first Deadpool's really off, because it's like it starts off quite hot because it's sort of like in media res and you get the cool scene and all, and then the whole like lead up, and then you're like back where you started like an hour later, and I feel like that kills the momentum of the whole thing. and it just gets like less funny as it goes on. I can't go into why it gets less funny because that's just like pure personal taste.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I found the second one a little bit more forced, and that's why I didn't find it as funny, I guess. And that's why I like the first one better, because it felt more natural, I guess.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like the second has, like, the lulls are a lot. I think the funny bits are a lot more funny, and the less funny bits are a lot less funny in the second one. Like the whole stuff with the kid, I just sort of missed every beat for me. But the whole stuff with the Defenders or whatever they were, Re-Avengers, that was just brilliant.
Is it not X-Force?
Yeah.
I think
Maybe.
it's meant to be X-Force, but I'm not sure they call it X-Force.
I'm sure they call it like the Re-Avengers because they're avenging something again, or something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, I didn't like the whole kid, but is he in The Hunt for
Wilder People?
Wilder People, yeah.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen that. I heard he's very good in that, but I don't know. It was definitely the weakest part of it, but I love the whole like Juggernaut thing and Domino. I think Domino. I love Zazie Beetz. If there's an actress I'm rooting for to sort of like really get up and running in this industry right now, it's Zazie Beetz. So like, although I have mixed feelings about Joker, and I think it's sort of problematic, I'm happy for her. Sort of thing. Like, I think like her character's written in a very problematic way in places, but I'm happy that she's sort of getting this sort of platform anyway. Like, I think they'll be like, oh wait, she can do really good work in any kind of film, whether it's going to be like a fun action thing or a deeper, darker sort of thing. And it's just a coincidence that they're both comic book movies of sorts.
By the way, did you say Bond from Kingsman? Is that the same director as Melancholia? Or is it another Bond or something?
No, you're thinking of Lars von Trier in Melancholia.
Okay, because I heard
Matthew,
Bond and I was like, is it the same guy?
Matthew Vaughn, he did, I think he did a couple of small films, but the ones people know him for are Kick-Ass, X-Men First Class, Kingsman, Kingsman 2, and now The Kingsman. And he also he also produces most of Guy Ritchie's films. So he's very sort of, he's like a more hyper Guy Ritchie.
No, I didn't know that, but I was thinking that when I was watching the Kingsman trailer. I was like, this feels a lot like a Guy Ritchie film. Like when I was watching it, and I was like, it also feels like a Matthew Vaughn film. And it's like, they're the same person.
Yeah.
Different generations, second wave, third wave, and maybe you guys are arguably fourth wave.
Yeah.
At this stage, I suppose like the whole point of like potentially, I don't know, I can't remember how many waves were. I feel like the third wave's been along for a while.
It sounds like third wave was like the 80s or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, I feel like we must be in our fourth wave by now, sort of thing. Hi.
Yeah. We should define fourth wave feminism in this episode.
It started at the start of this podcast.
Oh my god, Alex, Devon, Peter, Kat, I can't believe we invented feminism.
Well done, guys, with self-sexism. How do you guys feel about feminist characters that are sort of told by male directors? People like James Cameron, Tarantino. Tarantino's a real great spot because when Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out last year, I remember it sparked quite a lot of controversy, sort of saying because Margot Robbie, Sharon Tate doesn't really do a lot in the film. I think she's sort of built up as a plot device, and there was this whole argument as, does he have strong female characters? And people are like, oh well, he's got the bride. What do you call her name in the actual thing? Beatrix, yeah. Kiddo, that was what the nickname is. Yeah, and Jackie Brown. And then other people are like, but it's sort of like an exploitation of them at the same time. Or, this sort of thing. I just want to get your, I don't know.
No, go on, Alex, you go first.
I think it doesn't, like, the fact that it's a man directing it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be badly written or badly transformed, badly portrayed, anything like that. I think definitely Tarantino has really strong women, whether they're leads or just background characters. I don't think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a really good example, because I don't think, like, Shannon Tate's character was a very strange character in that movie, because she was definitely just there to explain the ending. Like, it was a plot device, as you said. You disagree.
I think she was the most interesting character in that film. But
I watched it, and I honestly did. I think it's the weakest of Tarantino, but maybe we can get to that later on if you want.
Devon,
but
why do you think? No, Alex, sorry. Go on.
But I think there isn't a need for women to write women. I think men can do a really good job, and I personally really enjoy Tarantino's portrayal of women generally.
Cool. Sorry, Kat, were you going to call Devon out for a shit?
No, opposite. I wanted to hear why he thought she was the most interesting, because I, watching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, thought, like, I don't personally like the feel of, I won't go into it particularly, but my kind of, like, feeling on the whole Sharon Tate thing was that, like, I really didn't like how they ended it. I know that's probably, like, not exactly controversial, but, like, I really didn't. I felt personally quite uncomfortable at the idea that, like, spoilers for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that real person is going to die in a few, like, however long that might be, from those characters that, like, he kind of, like, tries to present in the film. And I felt very uncomfortable at the idea, like, at the end they were like, oh, we'll come and, like, see you, we'll come and, like, make sure you're all right and everything. It's like, no one, that didn't happen. Like, I just don't like the fact that it's like, but you know she's gonna die, that poor woman. Like, I didn't sit right with me at all the way he presented that. But that's just a personal opinion. Why is it that you liked Sharon Tate's kind of, because I liked her generally as a character in the film, I just didn't like the way they ended it personally. But go on.
I think the whole of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is Tarantino's sort of musing on fame and how fame affects people, and if fame's something that should be kind of strived for, and whether you can be kind of whether fame is success. And of course the main two kind of they both have their particular relationships with fame and explore that. I think Sharon Tate is the most interesting one, because you see at the start of the film her kind of just about to break out. She's not recognized as a star, and she really wants to. She's kind of she just wants to be recognized and be successful and just be this kind of lauded over actress. She wants the streets to kind of know her name. That's why the whole kind of scene of her going to the cinema and kind of wanting him to take the photo with her and going into the film, and, like, she's so happy watching it. And all those scenes are so interesting, because you're there, like, because it's the tragedy of, well, she's going to die, and then at the end, everyone's seen it. So no spoilers. At the end, they save her. She doesn't die. The people who were going to kill her don't kill her. She's saved. She's going to live, but there's the weird tragedy of that, is that all she wanted to do is get famous. And through her death in the real world, she got famous. She got everything that she dreamed of, but she lost her life. And the kind of parallel universe that Tarantino set up is that she's saved, but she will lose everything that, you know, she won't be famous. She'll just be another actress brushed under the rug. She'll be another Leonardo DiCaprio's character of somebody who's kind of aged down and they're clamoring for the fame which they once had. Or she might be the Brad Pitt character of somebody who kind of had their shot at fame and they just missed it, and it might not have even been their fault, or it was just kind of the fluke of the hands and they missed it. And she, in the real world, is all her dreams came true by dying, and now she hasn't died, but she will never achieve the dream to the level that she achieved it by dying, and kind of it's not like, is it a good thing that she lived? Because of course it is a good thing, but that's the musing of what does fame really mean, and what is it really worth?
No, actually, no, you go, Alex.
Go.
Okay. I think that's a really, I will admit, like a perspective I'd not really considered and heard of when I watched it, because when I watched it I just remember feeling quite uncomfortable with it. But now that considering on it in that kind of perspective of almost, instead of it being oh, she's alive but she will die later in the kind of diegesis of the movie, which is how I interpreted it to be the time I watched it, you're thinking on it, and whether that's right or not, you're probably more right than I was, but in your diegesis you're taking it as this is kind of a world where maybe she didn't die, maybe these characters did. That's a really interesting take on it, because it does add a lot more different takes on the kind of idea, like you said, of fame, and how, whether that's a good thing, whether it's not, how should you be remembered, is it worth being remembered, considering I like that reading of it much more than my first reading of it. But I have an answer for what Peter initially said before, but I want Alex to speak first, just before I change the subject, kind of.
Just really quickly, I think the problem with that is, maybe it's just me, but I don't think I got enough of her to get that feeling, to feel sorry for her for not achieving her dream, or maybe not achieving it in the alternative universe that it sets. I think it's a very disconnected character that you don't get enough information on, or you don't get enough meaningful information on to connect and feel sorry or thankful or whatever in the ending.
Okay, yeah. I do think that she wasn't in it much, and I don't know if it could have been improved by more, but I feel like a lot of people were left wanting more.
Not only getting her more screen time, but I think just making the scenes that she's in the movie more meaningful, like this scene where she's buying the ticket. I think that was the only scene that I consider oh, I'm finally learning something about this character, but that's the only scene that I remember actually being meaningful, because the other one was when she's opening the door while she's packing up, but I didn't get any information on her or anything on that I don't know.
It really is just the cinema scene. All the other scenes with her are just exposition of, hey, this is Sharon Tate, she's an actress, she's married to this guy, she lives here, da da da. That's the only scene where she can really exist.
Exactly.
In the world. It's much more and I always forget his name, Richard Curtis. It's much more a Richard Curtis film than a Danny Boyle film. There's one scene where you're like, Danny added that to the script. But apart from that, it's Richard Curtis through and through. So if you like stuff like Love Actually, Notting Hill, The Boat That Rocked, you'll probably like it.
I think I'll get
You're calling out.
Okay, Love Actually.
Can we talk about Love Actually? No, Peter, no, don't say this.
It's so creepy.
No, it's not.
It is.
Oh my god, the men in that film.
It is.
I'm not going to sit here and say Love Actually is a great movie. It's not. But come off it. It satisfies a certain need for romance at a certain time of the year that you need at that time. And when we watched it in FilmSoc, it was the best experience ever, because it was just so good. Yes, it's creepy, but I think a more telling question than what your star sign is or anything is which is your favorite couple on Love Actually, because I think that's very telling. Well, for example, my favorite couple on Love Actually is Colin Firth and the woman that's there. Where is she from? Is she from I can't remember. They meet in France, but
Spanish.
Something like Portuguese. She's Portuguese. That's it. I like them because it's cute and he's awkward. But no, I'm intrigued to know why. Some people, I know for a fact that my friend Chris, who's from China, he hates Love Actually because it's one of the only films they screen in China at Christmas. It's like the main Christmas Chinese movie, according to him anyway. I'll have to fact check that. But anyway, why do you guys think it's dead creepy? I'm actually curious at this.
Well, first of all, the one that I always think of is Emma Thompson and Alan Rickman, and he cheats on her, and it's really gross.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember all of them. There's the one that is like a misogynist, and then he goes to America to sort of fulfill his misogynistic fantasy.
Yeah, like a really nice guy.
I'm trying to think of everybody now. I don't like Colin Firth one and the maid girl.
Was the two
care about it. I don't think that was quite as bad. I think that was okay. I think that one's okay, and Liam Neeson's like son or like stepson.
And yeah, and the random woman who's from like the bad side of the town. The wrong side of the tracks, as Lady Bird would say. But like
Andrew Lincoln's character.
Oh gosh! Oh no! There was this thing that I saw last time I watched it. You know how in his house he's like supposed to be like a bit of a like film, like he edits movies and stuff for like the weddings and things.
Yeah, that's creepy in itself.
There's a scene in the film where like I'm gonna give you this picture. The TV's here. He is here, and what's she called? Keira Knightley's like here. So like we're talking this kind of like paradigm. There's a book here. Oh, not book. It's a DVD copy. It's the first one you can see of Rear Window. How creepy is that?
I mean, that's the creepiest relationship in Love Actually, in my opinion.
Completely. Yeah. And like you're supposed to feel sorry for him.
No, absolutely not. If I saw my wedding video and it was just me for 3 hours and a half, and this guy was the best friend of my husband, I would kick him out, but actually go to the police and ask for a, faraway thing.
What's that called?
Restraining order.
Restraining order. Yeah. But they should call it a faraway thing.
Devon, what do you think about Love Actually?
I think that Love Actually is the Game of Thrones of the romantic comedy genre.
Oh! Whoa, that's a good tweet. Go on.
Because it's a film which tries to play with a lot of the tropes of the romantic comedy genre, but you can't really play with a lot of the tropes of the romantic comedy genre, because if you do that, then rom-com fans hate you. So it introduces a bunch of different storylines, and then for some of them, it completely adheres beat to beat with all the tropes absolutely perfectly, and some it doesn't. And it has to have the ones that do, but then it means that the ones that don't become very interesting. I feel like the whole
like which ones?
The whole Emma Thomas, Alan Rickman plotline, I think that's just fantastic. I think the scene where Emma Thomas like comes downstairs and is like, that's brilliant. I really like the one where it's the office worker who's trying to get with the co-worker, and then just as it's about to happen, her brother is having problems and she has to go and spend Christmas with her brother. I think that's really good. I really like that. I think the Keira Knightley one, it's a bit creepy, but I think it's interesting. I feel the dynamics of the guy, and I feel it could have been less romanticized, but I do think that it's an interesting setup that can't really resolve in a nice put a bow on it way, which you don't really get with a lot of rom-coms that kind of have that situation. He has to say like, hey, this isn't gonna work and I'm just gonna wander off into the night, which you wouldn't get otherwise. I feel it does have problems. It's very man oriented. There's only real, like the Emma Thomas one and the office worker one are the only real two female focused ones. And I feel like the Prime Minister plotline and the Colin Firth plotline are way too similar. They're both awkwardly posh British man gets involved with a kind of lower class person, but they're awkward and British, so it doesn't come off as too much of an abuse of power, and then they're okay with it anyway, so it's okay.
I mean, it's basically Bridget Jones, where they're going after Bridget
Jones.
I think that's my favorite rom-com.
I like Bridget Jones. It's good. What's your game, Devon?
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't know. Peter, do you have a game?
No. I wasn't planning on a game, and then you're like, I've got a game, and I was like, okay. Sounds
okay.
Good. Not indifference, like, yes, okay, I definitely game.
So my idea was I found a random movie generator where you click it and it gives you 4 films. And I thought that we could have a game where 2 of us get assigned 2 films. Like, 2 of us get assigned a film from the selection, and we have to argue which is the best out of them. And like, you have to argue for your film, whether you like it, whether you don't like it, whether you've seen it, whether you haven't seen it.
I'm gonna hate this.
I love this. I like this very
Okay.
much.
I feel like a boomer, but I have to get close to the camera. I don't have my glasses on.
Oh,
Okay.
And I don't see anything.
like
You might just have to be small. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 with me, Peter, Kat, and Alex. So I'll roll this dice. The contestant 1 will be Peter, and choosing Peter's film will be Kat, and contestant 2 will be Alex, and I'll be choosing Alex's film. That works. Okay. Here are our selection.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen 2 of these films.
I
Okay.
haven't seen one, so I feel
I know which one Alex has seen, so I kind of.
I want Alex to be arguing that Pirates of the Caribbean is the best film of the 2.
I
Okay.
want pieces to be arguing, just for the sake of the fact that Alex has seen it, and I think possibly he hasn't. Is
Is Coco?
Coco, yeah.
Okay, I've seen that.
Oh no, okay. Still, that's 2
Yeah.
good movies. So you've got some, selling points on both of those.
Out of
Okay.
these, though, I think The Devil Wears Prada is the best one.
That's such a good movie, though.
Okay. Which is better, Pirates of the Caribbean or Coco? Argue.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Coco.
Why? Give me details.
I actually think Coco is the best if I didn't have to do this sort of thing. I do enjoy Curse of the Black Pearl, but I do think Coco is a better film. For one, the animation's amazing. The music, oh my god, the music's so good. Especially if you get the Spanish version. I don't play the Spanish version because I can't speak Spanish. But if you listen to it on YouTube, the Spanish rendition of the songs is so good. Oh my god, the animation, the colors. And I think just sort of like the Day After Death theme became like this really weird like fascination for a while in between these sort of things. Like Spectre used it, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider sort of had this a big drive around. It's a really weird time, but I think Coco does a really good job sort of celebrating the holiday and doing it authentically. And I like that it's sort of like a dead and afterlife sort of thing, and you can see throughout it like crucifix and crosses, the household and all, and sort of recognizing that as a Mexican family they're quite likely to be Roman Catholic, but at the same time it's not at the forefront of the plot. This isn't just about, like, it's not sectarian in sort of its religious views, because it doesn't really give a religious view. It's sort of like a more spiritual and wider view of the subject, and I think that's brilliant. I think it's it's very universal and inclusive, but still being authentic to its heritage.
Okay, Alex, why is Coco the worst film and Curse of the Black Pearl the best?
Do I have to say why the Coco is the worst, or can I just say why?
No, but it
Pirates
might
of
help your argument.
It's
Okay.
Oh
Okay.
wait, can I bash?
Oh yes, you
Pirates?
tear Black Pearl
Okay.
apart.
Black Pearl ends 30 minutes in, and then there's like an hour and a half of film left, or like 2 hours of film afterwards.
No.
I enjoy that film, but let's be honest here. When we were all sitting down at FilmSoc No one remembered that there was more of that film.
That's so.
Wait, the
Wait,
Curse
you're
of
on my
the
team,
Black
actually.
Pearl is the first one, right?
Yeah.
No! That's such an informed statement. No. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why Curse of the Black Pearl is the best one. First of all, the music is quite strong. It's great, and remixes have been made out of that song, which are brilliant. And it's great without lyrics, which having lyrics in a song helps the song make it better because you can hide the music with the lyrics. But this one is strong without that. So first of all, the music. Second of all, you have Johnny Depp being the greatest pirate of the whole universe just by being crazy and unbalanced. And the fact that they don't tell you why he is unbalanced and what is wrong with him makes him very mysterious and a very interesting character, which makes it better because he is the main character. And talking about main characters, we have the greatest woman of all that movie, all that series, and probably the reason why I'm gay. It paints a really good portrait of what it was to be an English woman at that time, and what it was to be, thought to be property of a man, which in that case was your father, and then you immediately go on to having a husband and being property of that husband, which you didn't even choose. So that, and her willing of I am willing to put all this money behind me and move on with the poor guy from the corner because that's the man that I really love and the man that I want to spend my time the rest of my life with. It makes it a really good plot line. So you have a really good love story, a very interesting and mysterious main character that it's the pirate, and then you have a really good soundtrack, and then you have the mystic kind of ghosty supernatural side of it, which is the zombies, and who doesn't like the zombies? It makes it very interesting. And then you have the two antagonists but that offer a comedic side, which are the two friends, the small one and the tall one, that go into the little boat and start moving towards money. So you have treasures and maps and zombies that are skeletons, but it has sort of its scary side, but it isn't really, because you have the comic relief that these two little friends share. And then that movie has absolutely everything. And then why Coco isn't good? It's first of all because it's a very shallow movie. If you want to see a movie about the Day of Death, you might as well see the Book of Life, because it's more complete. It sets a better context to it. Also, the fact that it's dependent on that plot twist, that it's not really a plot twist of. Am I allowed to say what the plot twist is? Or
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see in Coco, right?
Spoilers for Coco.
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah.
Okay. So the whole movie is set around this plot twist that his is it the grandpa or great grandfather isn't really his great grandfather, which it's quite predictable because you can see from the first moment the connection that these two characters make, the Miguel and the other one that it's about to be forgotten, which is, it plays on shock value, and it doesn't do it very well because it's quite predictable. And it's also no.
Okay.
Enough. I will admit, I think Alex did a pretty good job of selling me Pirates of the Caribbean just there. I will admit, but I mean, Peter made a good point about the fact that it kind of ends 30 minutes of the way. What do you think, Devon? I slightly inclined to agree with Alex. Sorry.
My vote is, I think, with Pirates. I think.
Aww.
As good as Peter's argument was, I think that you know, that it does do a lot, and yeah,
I'm
that's
quite
mine.
surprised because
I
I
guess
think
this is
Coco is
round one goes to Alex.
Yeah.
Yay.
Thank you.
Okay, let's swap round this time, so that me and you, Kat, can like do the arguing, and then if we want to do another complete round.
Okay, yeah, sure. Let's do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then our new films are. Oh, okay.
No. Oh no.
If you want a new role, because I admit there's another Pirates, but your choice.
I kind of want to do another role personally, but
Okay.
Which
it's
number
probably going to
is
be even
Fallout?
worse, isn't it? Okay, this is. We can work with this.
Wait, what in the end do I have to choose for you, Devon?
You have to choose for me. Peter has to choose for Kat.
Okay.
Please don't.
Kat, you have to argue that the Lion King remake is better.
Oh yes.
Well, I don't know if you've seen the other two.
I will not reveal. To make it more interesting.
Okay.
It may be quite fun if he hasn't seen the movie you pick.
I know you've seen Thor Ragnarok. I think. I'm kind of doubting myself, but I'm gonna go with that one because I don't know the other two. So I don't know how difficult or easy I'm making it for you. I'm sorry.
Okay. Who should go first?
I'll go first if you want.
Okay.
Okay. So, the 2019 Lion King remake from the original. Is it like the mid 90s? I'm pretty sure the original. Anyway, we don't know talking about the old one. We're talking about the new improved, the 2.0 of the Lion King movies. You know, we've had Simba's Pride, the second one. We've had Lion King 3.5 or 2.5, whatever it was. Timon and Pumbaa going off just talking about, you know, breaking the fourth wall for like 2.5 hours. The Lion King remake is groundbreaking in terms of its CGI, and I know everybody thinks it's emotionless. It doesn't have the same, you know, line drawn animation quality. No, it doesn't. I will completely agree with you that line drawn animation has a completely different feel and a completely different set of qualities. However, I watched Lion King and I was blown away by the sheer just majesty of it the whole way through. I was thinking, how is this so photographic and real? It feels like I'm on the Serengeti with Simba and we're going and we're, you know, running around and there's butterflies and it was the best thing. And then there's the flame bits. Okay, I'll give it credit where credit's due that the Scar's song is pretty rubbish by comparison to the original one, especially since they could have given him the whole weird, like, slightly creepy vibe that they had in the original cut where they had, like, Scar secretly, like, fancies Nala and, like, ooh, he's like, ooh, that's Nala, come on. And, like, they could have been creepy, but it wasn't. Anyway, what I'm trying to get at is the vibe is just so up there and it's so good and, like, and it's not just nostalgia, but I do think nostalgia plays a really big factor in it. Because, like, if you haven't seen the original one, you're probably just going to watch it and think, this is just, I don't see the emotion here. But for me, it felt like I was reliving a remastered version of my childhood. And I personally liked that. I didn't feel like it was like, you know, some people felt like it was stepping on the grave of the Lion King and, like, it being one of the most, like, highly regarded Disney movies ever. I personally think it's one of the best remakes that they've done of the Disney ones. I feel like I could do a whole radio show on it, weirdly enough, but I can't think of any of the points that I would want to talk about right now. It's just, and also the voice acting, I will admit, the kids singing isn't the best thing I've ever heard, but the way they actually act and everything is actually okay. And also, and I know, see, this is just me saying all the bad things. I know that everyone hates the fact that the song Can You Feel the Love Tonight is set in the afternoon. I completely see where you're coming from. I completely get it. But maybe you could see that it does go into the night later on in the song. So you can't necessarily argue that it's completely wrong.
I can't even remember what Devon's film is.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thor Ragnarok.
Thor Ragnarok is the epitome of cinema. It has transcended cinema, and I know you think that I'm just trying to like be very magnificent and try to, but no, because if you think about it, when you look at the superhero genre has such like a formula to it. It's so much like trying to tell this hero's tale, and they all look the same. You look at Iron Man, you look at the original Thors, you look at Captain America, Captain Marvel, Black Panther, they've all got these very traditional heroes arcs. Thor Ragnarok has gone beyond that. They're like, we don't need to do that. We don't need to do the hero arc. We don't need to do the kind of having their moment of like realization. No, we can just make this a sketch show. That's what they do. They take this superhero genre because this Marvel Cinematic Universe, it lays the groundwork so you can be experimental and so you can be weird, and so you can get Taika Waititi to come in and just make something weird and wonderful with space orgies and black holes that look like assholes. And it's just like they can do anything with it, and they do. And they do stuff like they bring Hulk in, and Hulk and Thor together in the same movie, and it's like a movie with both of them, and it's not treating the Marvel Universe like a kind of trying to do cinema, because it knows that it doesn't need to do cinema. It's a toy box. It's getting all these weird, like Doctor Strange, it just brings him in for a scene and it does like weird stuff with it. And like you can look at it in the greater arc, and you can look at Thor's trajectory, and it is a like very important stepping stone in Thor's trajectory, which goes from like the first Thor all the way to Endgame. He's definitely the strongest of the three in terms of arcs and character between Iron Man and Captain America, because Captain America doesn't really go anywhere, and Iron Man kind of does his big sacrifice at the end of Avengers and then doesn't really go anywhere. But Thor, he has this really interesting, complex arc, and Ragnarok is a stepping stone in that, but it doesn't need to show that it's a stepping stone in that. It can be weird, it can be fun, it can be funky. And how Jeff Goldblum with a staff, and then you look at the Lion King is just like a soul. It's sort of like, obviously Kat, she's gone through most of the reasons why it's bad, but I like the thing is that yes, The Lion King is amazing visually. It's like a nature documentary. But the thing is, you could do so much more with that. You can make it so much more with that technology. Just regurgitating, like sticking the title and making it shot by shot so you can like cash in the nostalgia, because people don't want to see a safari because no, you could do something really interesting with that. You can make it so it's animals doing stuff in a way where they're kind of using their realism instead of trying to kind of force themselves into this weird animated animatronic like janky movements which they do with their limp mouths and their weird voices, and they're singing about the night when it's actually the day. And it's just like, no, Thor Ragnarok is absolutely the best film of the two, and there is no argument otherwise.
Janky. I want to address them.
Go for it.
No. Go on, you know who's right.
My face hurts.
That was a ride.
I need more drink.
You wanna answer to that Kat before we start?
I just have one. It's not. I don't count this as the factor.
No. They're like fight back.
You said that the action.
Such shade.
Later in your essay, Devon said that the animation was, what was it? It was janky, that's it, and that it had no emotion. My question to you, sir, is what would you have done? No. In fact, don't answer my question. Just hear what I'm going to say and don't retort. The question is, okay, if we had done some kind of weird middle ground where we'd have gone with like okay, we're going to do CG live action. It's going to look kind of live actiony, but it's going to be also like line drawing, like where there's this kind of like cartooniness in the eyes or cartooniness in the mouth. My feeling on that was that would look really uncanny valley to me, and would look really like you're going in some kind of weird in between where it's like Mars Needs Mums, or it's like, you know, like other creepy live action. For my point being that I think that if they were gonna do a remake, they did it in the perfect way that they could have done it, in a majestic big thing. But this isn't really part of my like argument, because this is just something I would like to argue with people who didn't think it was good.
I don't know.
Go.
Yeah, but then my thing is, why use this technology to remake The Lion King when you could tell a different, better story which utilizes the technology better? The Lion King, in essence, is a film which doesn't need to exist, and that is the worst crime that it has.
I think the worst crime a film can commit is being boring, and I was not bored for a single moment in that film. And like, so it's the idea that like a remake of, I'm not usually a big fan of remakes myself, so I totally understand where you're coming from. But like, for me, I guess it's the nostalgia thing maybe that's driving it more so than anything else. Like, I'm like, I just really, really like the story, and it reminds me of so much like a remastered version, like I said. So I suppose I know what you mean in that, like, if you kind of have the blanket statement of these new remakes aren't really a good idea, or I don't really enjoy them, then The Lion King is just the same as Aladdin and Dumbo and all the same. Like, and I kind of can completely get on board with that idea. I just personally really like this one as a remake because I kind of see it as like my favorite movie of those times, so it kind of fits. But that's just a personal thing. It's not really like it makes it better or makes it a great remake. Like, no, I don't know.
But like, you look at something, I feel mean fighting.
No, don't be mean.
You look at something like Maleficent, where they're remaking a film like Sleeping Beauty, and they're like, the live action version, the animated version is the best it can be, so we're not going to try and do that. We're going to try and do something different, and we're going to try and tell this story in a different way. But they didn't try that in The Lion King. They didn't even like remotely attempt it. They were just like, no, we're going to be as absolutely shot for shot, beat for beat, loyal as we can. And it just, why make a subpar version of something to the shot, to the like individual camera movements? It felt like a tech demo.
That's fair.
No, you're supposed to play.
No, but it's true. I'm not gonna say no, you're wrong.
Game.
Like, it's true. I think, like, just because you don't like that about it doesn't mean that I can't like that about it. So that's why I'm saying I agree with you in that. Like, if it was a story that I didn't care about as much, like say if it was maybe like they were remaking the Black Cauldron, or Disney story that I don't really care about, like then I would not be this on board with how, like, you know, like say if they made a really, really CG dragon, but even then it's like, it's fantasy, so it's slightly different. But anyway, I can't really retort because I do agree with you. Like, it doesn't, just because I enjoy it and you're giving the exact same reasons that like are fair, but I just enjoy it and you don't. So
I got that. I got those vibes.
Okay, well we'll call it there. Who won?
I mean, we know who won. I mean, the better argument.
Kat, you did more for destroying your movie than actually arguing for it.
I was ticking off points.
Right, and I take this criticism on board. But I'm not going to fight it. I'm just going to take it on board.
And also, The Black Cauldron is one of the best Disney movies in the whole universe.
Alex. Why? Why do you think that? It's so boring. It's not interesting.
Boring.
It is boring.
It's not.
The animation's boring. The side characters are boring.
It's from the 90s. The animation is the worst thing you can see because it's so old.
Okay, I'm not a fan to say, like, oh, you know, like, people who are like, it's aged badly because the animation's bad. Like, that's just rubbish.
No, I don't think it aged badly. I still think it's one of the greatest movies.
I half disagree. Like, I think it's a stupid thing to say, like, oh, it's aged badly because the animation is old. Like, yes, completely agree with that. But I don't like the animation style, full stop. There were way better movies being made at that time that look way better.
I like the style. I like the fact that it's sort of sketchy.
Again, that's subjective. Like, you're gonna like it. I I like the really apparently terrible Lion King movie.
It's almost like film subjective.
It's almost
No, Peter, no, can't be.
There is
Too radical. I don't know what Black Cauldron is.
I
Really not a Disney film.
I recently read the book that it was supposedly inspired the movie, and I thought it was even greater. By the way, my vote goes to Devon.
That's fair. That's fair.
Same, but I really appreciate the sort of cat nostalgia. I'll defend even though I see the flaws. But because I got that when Suicide Squad came out, because that was sort of like an introductory point into comics for me. So that was like really exciting, and although I sort of still feel sentimental about the film, even though like I can see like a lot of the flaws and how it could be a lot better, sort of thing. So no, I appreciate that. I'll give brownie points to Kat.
Thank you.
For the heart.
I don't really like Thor Ragnarok.
Oh my god, that just rubs dirt in my face. I like this film, and you guys have to like it and win.
But I haven't seen the Lion King remake, so I don't know.
Okay.
Have you seen the other two films, the Inferno Gemini or something like that?
Not a clue, but Gabrielle's Inferno, I was planning out my argument. It was going to be great.
Sorry.
No, please. I'm so glad you didn't choose it. Okay, so roll dice, d4. So Kat is paired with... No, we did that one last time.
Kat is paired with myself.
Stop.
Stop!
Okay.
One more time, and then I'm just picking.
I am paired with Peter.
Okay.
And so Kat. So wait, I'm the first to argue, and Peter's choosing for me. And then Kat, I'm arguing. I'll argue with Alex just to change it up, and then Kat will choose for that. That works. Done. And our films for me and Alex are. That's the Cinderella remake, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know which movies you've seen, Alex, of these. I'm assuming you might have seen one of these, but I don't know.
Go with the easy one.
Go with the easy. Okay. I'm going to pick for you Cinderella.
Thank you.
I don't know what you've seen, but I'm going to be the King of Staten Island.
Okay.
Ooh.
Do you want to start them?
Do I?
Yes, you do.
Okay. Well, the King of Staten Island. I feel like Paul Feig has always tried to do films which are kind of balancing comedy and drama, and stuff like Bridesmaids, it's more comedy. Spy has like a lot of comedy with some but I think King of Staten Island is the first time he's really properly had comedy and drama in the same film. For those who don't know, the film stars Tom Wayne, who's a son of a fireman, and his dad was killed during 9/11, and then his mum has just got a new boyfriend who is a fireman too. So it's about him dealing with the idea that kind of confronting his dad's death and creating a bond with his mum's new boyfriend, and just kind of the struggles of being an adolescent who hasn't really grown up because of the lack of father figure. And it's really just the fact that it is, it's this really heartfelt story, this really kind of a story that, it brings tears to your eyes, but it's just done in such a funny way, and the way that he's kind of he's so childish, so he interacts with other kids in a similar way, despite being a guy in his late 20s. He's always kind of he gets on with people much younger than him much better. He's really kind of a toddler. He tries to do tattoos, and it really kind of doesn't work. And he wants to own his own tattoo parlor. That's another point that he's kind of really trying to he's trying to make his own person, and he's trying to become his own person, but it's the fact that he's kind of got these really traumas that are bubbling under the surface that kind of come up in the film. And it's a film that really makes you laugh, makes you cry, makes you feel, and everyone in it is kind of the cast which you don't expect to really be in this type of film. They're all kind of, a lot of them from Saturday Night Live, from that kind of ilk of people who they're very much seen as these very shallow comedians, when in fact they really do have this dramatic range, and it really helps show it off. And a fun fact, Steve Buscemi is in it, and he was actually a fireman in 9/11, so that's a nice kind of memorial callback to that time and his kind of role in that. And compared to Cinderella, which again, it's just a Disney cash grab. It's just another shallow, cold remake. It's a remake that people forget kind of started the trend of Disney remakes. Beauty and the Beast was really the first one, which kind of picked up steam and kind of souls Disney with the fact that this will make you a lot of money. Cinderella, it was done by Kenneth Branagh, who of course did 4 and Murder on the Orient Express and a bunch of other really forgettable movies. Artemis Fowl he just did, which I showed you the clip from, and he's one of those directors who just, he has no soul for him, and that really fits with this movie. Like the cast, they have, you know, it's none of the cast are bad, and you can look at all of their careers on their IMDb page, and they've all done a bunch of good roles. I mean, Lily James, she was in Baby Driver and Mamma Mia 2 and Yesterday, and she's one of those actresses who's had like a really kind of long-lasting career, but nobody knows her as a Disney princess, and it's because this film is just so forgettable. It did nothing. It did nothing for pop culture. It did nothing for Disney's brand. It was just a film which was regurgitated out and then pushed aside so the next one could be put in production.
Okay.
Oh my god.
Okay. I think Devon's done the most of the job for me. I'm gonna start with Devon's film. I've honestly forgotten the name. You talk about forgetness, and the first thing I forgot was the name of your movie, the movie you were defending, because the line is so basic. Oh, a poor fireman whose dad, I'm either going to be very insensitive or very stupid in this one, but it's only for the sake of the game.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, poor fireman, you know, a face of authority that lost his father in the 9/11 crash. It's the story of many, and honestly, it's not a very original argument. And of course, it's a, you know, life trajectory. But if I'm going to see a drama/comedy life trajectory, I'd rather see Bridget Jones' Baby. I honestly think it would be a better, more relatable one than that one that you were defending. And about Cinderella, I honestly don't think it's forgettable. As you said, it set the ball rolling for the rest of remakes, and a lot of remakes from Disney movies have gone out really well, except for Lion King, but Aladdin's new sorry guys. Aladdin's, for example, new take on the movie was great, and you know, it painted a new, more feminist side of the original movie. And I think it's the same thing sort of came from Cinderella. I don't think that the characters are forgettable. In fact, I recognize Lily James in Mamma Mia because of Cinderella. I think that set a really good point for her, especially to get recognized by the kids who are the ones who are going to see next movies. You know, not the older guys who will probably die first. I think it's great. I think the costume design, for example, is the best thing out of the movie, together with the score and the songwriting. So I think it's a really, really different take from the original, that it plays with a lot of the base that the animated version sets, but it makes its own route to the new generation of Disney princesses that, though they're based on older movies are changed to be more adaptable to the current times and the, you know, more cultural acceptable system environment.
I think it says a lot that you say the costume design is the best part of the film when Suicide Squad won Best Makeup and Costume Design at the Oscars.
To be fair,
Suicide
Suicide Squad
Squad
had great costume and makeup.
Yeah, but
It
Suicide
is
Squad
fantastic.
probably bought their entrance to that, and Cinderella did.
Oh yeah, it's so hard to get them to.
Everyone's clamoring for those makeup Oscars.
Like there were 3 nominations that year.
Listen, no one likes Suicide Squad, so they had to buy their way into one of the nominations.
That's insane.
Honestly, like, I know I sort of have like a bias, I mentioned it earlier, but it deserved that Oscar. Like, the other contender was Star Trek Beyond and I don't know, a European film. I can't remember. I feel like it begins with Green, or Green is in it.
Mm.
I can't remember. I think it's sort of like more normal makeup than sort of like sci-fi fantasy makeup. But yeah. I'm going to be honest, guys, I'm at that stage where I can't really remember what people are saying. So if someone asked me like what they were saying, I could maybe give you like the gist of it.
I want to say for you know, the audience listening to this, the amount of BS that just came out of my mouth was for the sake of winning Devon, because that was an impossible task.
I think it's called A Man Called Ove, by the way, the other one.
Oh yeah. Okay. I haven't seen it, but yeah. It's a bit more like normal. I know that sounds weird to say, but you know, it's a bit more of a grounded drama.
Yeah.
They're not trying to make aliens and crocodiles.
Yeah. Or honestly, I think it's Harley's makeup that makes it, and her costume design. I think it was based just on that because it looks great throughout the whole film.
And you see the difference is that Harley Quinn, to win that costume nomination, had to be sexualized, while Cinderella didn't.
Ooh.
But also Killer Croc and Deadshot. I think Deadshot's got a nice design.
Okay, who got it?
I think Alex did a very good job of like making out Cinderella, which is quite a forgettable film. It's not a very forgettable film. I think you did a very good job. Like I feel like I'd be convinced to watch it. And I will be honest, as much as Devon's argument was, and this might be because I'm bitter, I think as much as Devon's argument was good, I don't really know what this film is about. So that you just explained. I feel like I was confused. But I still want to watch it. I like them both. I find it hard to pick, genuinely. You both sold them quite well. I just don't know what the plot of the one you said was. I still want to watch it.
It was a guy opening a tattoo parlor. That's the only thing that stuck into me.
The Steve Buscemi fact. That like really, that was like the highlight of the review. Like the rant. That was good. I'm going to say Devon.
Yes.
I'll play devil's advocate and go for Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Call us a draw. I have no idea what the plot of Staten Island is. I saw a trailer like 2 months ago. I don't know if Paul Feig directed it. Tom Wayne definitely isn't in it. And I don't know if Steve Buscemi's in it.
Oh, you!
I haven't seen any of the movies that were listed. Any of them. My whole costume design argument was based off the trailer, and it was just a snap of it.
Judd Apatow, that's the director. He's like Paul Feig. American comedy.
Sure.
Yeah.
I started Far From Home, by the way.
Oh.
I got to the plane, and it got really cringy from there, and I had to switch it off.
I actually bought it quite recently for the MCU thing, and then it didn't arrive until like 3 weeks later. So I'd like to rewatch it. I sort of felt like, because I think I have the opposite opinion of it than Devon, because I think it gets better as it goes along, and Devon thinks it gets worse as it goes along.
Yeah.
From home?
Yeah, I don't think, I really like the teen element of it in the first one. I think that's done really well, but in the second one, I think it's a little bit cringier. And then I think it gets better as it gets a bit more sort of optical illusion-y. And like, I hate drones as like I don't want to say a plot device, but you know, as like a thing in films. I think Inferno set the stage for that of how bad a drone sequence could be, but I think it was done quite well in Far From Home. I think my only problem with it is that he's a bit like Tony Starkish, and I don't like. It's weird that a film that doesn't have Iron Man in it was more invasive than the film that did have Iron Man in it.
I feel like we haven't had like a proper just Spider-Man film in about 8 years. Like Amazing Spider-Man was the last one, because Amazing Spider-Man 2 was trying to set up Sinister Six. Homecoming was like Iron Man. Far From Home was Iron Man. Even Into the Spider-Verse, it had like a great Spider-Man thing, but there was like all the other Spider people and Peter Parkers, and it's just like, I kind of just want the Batman, but with Spider-Man. I want the Spider-Man.
Yeah. That's what I like about the new sort of direction DC is going in, where it's for like a bit more standalone, and you can watch it one by one if you want. I don't know, like, I have very controversial opinions for Spider-Man, I think. I think the second one's overrated. I think the third one's underrated. And I think
From the original Spider-Man.
Yeah, like the Tobey Maguire ones. I think the first one is where it should be. I don't think people feel too strongly about it either way, which is fine. I'm sure it's great for its time, and I enjoyed it when I was little, but looking back at it, I feel like there's like a couple of sort of gay jokes that are used to emasculate people that didn't age well, you know, but were maybe like fine for the early 2000s. But no, I really like the third one, and I'm a little bit sentimental because that was the first live action film, like superhero film I remember going to see. And then it became a film that you sort of watched ironically, and then it slowly for me became a film that I actually just really enjoy. I think part of it's the Aunt May moments, and they're like the Spider-Man 2 gives her like an action bit where she like hits Doc Ock, you know, with her cane or whatever. But I feel like, I don't know, I just sort of like, you know, when Peter's telling her about, you know, that he's going to propose to MJ, and she talks about Uncle Ben's proposal to her. I think that's a brilliant scene. No, I just think it's one of the best ones. It's one of my favorite Spider-Man films, if not the favorite Spider-Man film.
I think I've got the hot take that I quite enjoyed Amazing Spider-Man 2. And I mean, a lot of it is very bad. Like, all of the stuff with the villains is awful. But I just really liked Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone's, like, interactions. And I really liked the way their relationship ended up and, like, concluded. And I liked that it kind of, it committed to that dramatic beat and, like, held it. And didn't, like, have the, oh, but everything's okay. It, like, yeah. I hated the villains, but everything else that didn't include any of the villains, I liked in that film.
I liked In the Hand and I Hope for Good Things, but I don't think he was as good as, what do you call him? James Franco, as Harry Osborn. I think James Franco did a good, better Harry Osborn. I don't know, I like the first Amazing Spider-Man. I really do like it, and I think I might prefer it to Tobey Maguire's first film. In a way, no. I think it's a... Okay. but I think it's a better origin film. I think a lot of people focus on the CGI lizard, but it doesn't really bother me too much. I just sort of really like Andrew Garfield and Gwen Stacy. I think I always think of wasted potential, especially with like the video game came out where he's like 8 years into his career. And I feel like that's what the Andrew Garfield series should have been, where it's about an older Spider-Man. sort of dealing with this sort of thing, and you could still have Gwen Stacy. You could have it where it's sort of like MJ still like just a friend, but he's dating Gwen Stacy at the minute, and then maybe that change. You know, you could still do pretty much the same sort of plots, but just like slightly recontextualize it so that he's already been Spider-Man. Kurt Connors is his university professor, you know, and Gwen Stacy is his current love interest, which is actually what they were sort of saying up in Spider-Man 3, I suppose, where Kurt Connors was his professor and Gwen Stacy is his like university peer.
Who plays Gwen Stacy in
Bryce Dallas Howard, which
Blonde.
is pretty cool actually, yeah. But she's blonde and all, and she looks quite like Gwen Stacy.
Fair.
I like her. What do you guys think of Bryce Dallas Howard as an actress?
I'm gonna Google her to see what else she's been in.
She's the Jurassic World girl.
She was
I love
fine in Black Mirror, that Black Mirror episode where you're rating everyone.
I love
I
her.
have never seen Black Mirror.
But she's never really stood out in anything else apart from that. And I feel like that was it fit very well with her aesthetic. Whereas usually she's just so terrible in Jurassic World. Jurassic World's just such a bad film. She's just such an unlikable character in such an unlikable film.
But I think
sorry, you go, Alex.
Despite being a terrible film, which it is, and I totally agree with you, I think she does a really good job with the little that she has to work with. I don't think it's bad because of her. I think she's what makes the character the little good that the character has.
Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Orange.
Overrated, surface level condescending.
Wow. I'm going to watch it, agree with you, and then play contrarian and argue against you.
I feel attacked.
Yeah, you've seen it.
I've seen it.
You like it?
I loved it.
Okay.
I think it's a work of art.
No, I felt like they were explaining everything to me. I felt like whenever they showed me something and I was like, oh, that's quite interesting. And then the voiceover was like, and then I was this.
But the thing is,
it was this. And I was like,
the feeling that I got is that the narration is not what is happening. Like, sorry, there's a mosquito in my room. The narration is like all ironic. So what it's going on, it's actually the opposite to what it's narrating. The narrator's voice is actually narrating what it's going on, what you see.
Christmas films night. It's just so good.
Nightmare Before Christmas. Is it a Christmas or Halloween movie?
I'd call it a Christmas film overall. It was quite short. I thought it was going to be longer, but it's over quite quickly.
Don't pull my tongue because I'll start talking.
It's not great. But I would say it is more a Christmas. I don't know. Yeah, it's tough because it's definitely like, if you look at it as an overall film, then it's definitely more about Christmas. But there's definitely more Halloween in it.
I think this is a good one for November. I like these sort of November. No, I'm serious. I think November has its own sort of genre where it's a little bit darker, but it's cold. Like horror films set in the cold is November for me. It's why I liked about sort of Doctor Sleep coming out at the very start of November, where it's sort of like a winter setting. Everyone's got jackets on and all, and it's sort of supernatural. I think supernatural stuff is that's sort of meant to be like devious. Is quite a winter setting sort of thing. Like, you know, Indiana Jones and stuff, that's very summery because it's sort of like, oh, it's Eve. Well, okay, no, I think I've defeated my own point there.
I think you'd like Drive.
Speaking of pretentious, I was quite indifferent to Nightcrawler when I watched it so many years ago. Like, it was before uni, but I just sort of like...
You should
Jesus.
watch it again. It's so good.
So good.
I don't think it's a bad film, but I got to the end and I was sort of like, okay. Yeah, it was sort of like, it felt like the situation could have gone further, but I knew it couldn't at the same time. And then it just created this whole like paradoxical anticlimax. And it just left me feeling kind of empty at the end. And I don't like films that make me feel empty.
What do you think was anticlimactic?
I don't know, because I think it's sort of like, you know, it's, I don't know, it's pretty grounded, I suppose. Well, it's like approach to American journalism, I suppose, to a lesser success British journalism, is sort of like in the sort of exploitation of crime against white suburbia, and it sort of climaxes in this way that sort of like, it's not huge, like it never feels like it gets out of hand for the character, because that's the point, it sort of succeeds. Sorry, has everyone seen it? Yeah, okay, I'm not just like spoiling it, but you know, it sort of succeeds at the end. I suppose that's sort of like, it's one of those films I feel like thematically, if you looked at it, it sort of probably gets its point across really well, but as a viewer, I just felt quite, I don't know, awkward by the end of it. Like I felt quite, I didn't really know how to feel about this film at the end, and you know, I still don't really know so many years later. So it's really that. It's not that I think it's a poorly made film, because I think it's done quite well. I think Jake Gyllenhaal is very good in it. It's just that overall, I don't know, just makes me feel empty.
I think it's meant to feel like that, because the things, maybe it's because I read it in a point in my life where it makes sense, because I'm studying journalism and I'm reading a book about being the director of a paper. So maybe it was just the time being, but I think it paints us in a really bad light to journalists, but it's a very realistic light where you only succeed if you try to down the competition, which is essentially what he does in being, you know, in that scene where he films the other guy, the other nightcrawler, almost dead or dead, getting out of the car, and he's just like, but you know, he's one of us, and he's like, it doesn't matter, it's Buse. It's that, and the fact that it doesn't matter how bad of a person he is or he gets, he will get his way, because that's how the industry works. You have to be, you know, soulless and cold and work towards your goal despite of how many people you bring down with you.
For me, the scene that makes the film, which the first time I watched it, I just thought it was like a side scene, but the second time I was like, oh, and subsequent times, like, this is the scene where he goes on the date with the woman,
Producer.
and it's and it's like, firstly, the conversation is just so fantastically written, in like everything's so like slyly under the surface. It's just like slipped in, and it's so like uncomfortable, but it's so like, it's never direct, but it's always direct. And it's that moment, like when you're in her shoes and she suddenly realizes the industry that she has kind of not only come into but helped foster, and the work ethic that she's helped foster. And it's sort of, it's this moment, it's like the I am become death moment of like, what have I created, where she's sitting across this person who she has molded into an image, and now she realizes not just who he is, but who everyone is and who she is. And that just, it's fantastic.
I think that's the beginning of the end, and I think it's just brilliant. Brilliant.
Okay. It's just sort of like, for me, it's sort of like The Irishman, where it's sort of like, by all means, it's a very well-made film, and when I'm watching it, I'm sort of invested. But I think at the same time, it's sort of like, thematically, I get all of that. I get all sort of the points that you and Devon were talking about, you know, when I was watching it. And then by the end, I feel like there was nothing else to talk about. You know, by the end, I feel like it sort of told me everything I needed to know, and it didn't have an emotional core to keep me invested in it after I was done. So I was just sort of like, it was one of those films, like, when I finished watching it, I felt like I was done with it. Which is why I hate about a film. It's why I sort of felt like, if you go back to my review of The Irishman and The Courier, I think I gave it 5 stars. If I could go back and retract that, I probably would, because that was sort of like the next morning thoughts of what it was like. But I think about The Irishman so little that I really just wouldn't be able to justify that now. Like, if I finish a film and don't think about it a week later or whatever, and I'm just sort of done with it, then I don't know. It's just not something I'd go back to. I feel like I haven't created any sort of dialogue or monologue within myself having watched the film. And in the end, it's just sort of like, it's awkward because I don't want to say it's disposable, because that's not right. You know, clearly it means a lot to people and it says what it wants to say and it says it well, but it's sort of like, it's not thought-provoking or controversial. It sort of presents something very clearly. It doesn't throw a spanner in the works when it's saying it. It's very, I don't know. Have you guys seen Gone Baby Gone?
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Alex, have you seen it?
I don't know. I'm gonna Google it because the name sounds familiar.
Casey Affleck's wife was kidnapped.
That means
Oh,
absolutely
maybe I have
nothing to
seen
me.
it.
No,
Maybe
I
I
don't
have
think his
seen
wife is killed.
Not wife, daughter? Some.
Someone's daughter is a private inspector.
Yeah.
But
Oh, I
it's
have
a sort
seen
of
it. Oh, I have
sort of
seen it.
thing that,
Yeah.
like, it's not quite the same, because I wasn't sort of thinking about the themes of it. I was sort of thinking about the moral complex that it sort of proposes to you afterwards. You know, sort of what would you do in that situation? And that's something I think about a lot further on.
Yeah.
And I just don't think Nightcrawler had that for me. I think I was just sort of felt it's awkward, and the whole thing's awkward, and watching it was awkward. And like, it's just like, it's one of those words, like, I haven't really been able to come to terms with it because it's so hard to describe what my experience was like with it. But I think most people have ended up enjoying it in a place that I haven't, but I haven't come from a place that I really disliked it, you know, and it's not quite indifferent. So it's been a very unique experience in that sense. But I just don't really want to go back to it ever again, you know.
I was gonna say it's funny because like you obviously like have a consistency with movies that you would probably count as 5 stars, because it's like how you were saying you don't think the reason you're not too keen on Was It Danny Boyle was because you thought like he doesn't really try anything unusual or try and like do anything new or thought-provoking in the way that maybe his older stuff used to now.
Yeah.
So it's at least there's consistency in that, like it's not really making me think beyond once the film has ended or once like a few hours after it has ended. Like I can completely sympathize with that. Like for me, I thought about Nightcrawler a bit after the fact, so I slightly disagree, but it's not like an agreeing or disagreeing thing. It's just like whether it fit your kind of what you like in a movie and what you didn't. So it's going to be different for everyone. It's like how I did think about The Irishman a long time after, but you didn't, and it doesn't matter, you know.
Yeah, I disagree with your reading of Nightcrawler, but I think your wording around why was very well put. I like that.